As the Delta variant of COVID-19 continues in places where vaccination rates remain low, a lot of people are still wondering why there are people that are even refusing to take this free vaccine that has just been approved by the FDA. I mean, if anything, this really does make the case that, oh, looks like the government can provide health services for free. Why don't we expand that to do things like Medicare to everybody? That said, there are people, a lot of people, Republicans mainly, that have decided that they would not take this free vaccine. And so Alexander Stockton, who was a reporter for the New York Times, decided to go to these places and ask people. So let's take a look at some of that report.
You're talking about an unproven, untested vaccine that doesn't even seem to really protect people because people who've gotten the vaccine are getting sick.
I went to one of the places with the worst vaccination rate.
I don't want a poison forced into me.
I'm tired of y'all trying to control us.
One of the best things we have is our own God-given natural antibodies.
It also has one of the worst COVID case rates in the country, the Ozarks.
I don't take the flu shot. I don't take the pneumonia shot. I don't take any of them.
I wanted to find out why residents here aren't getting vaccinated.
You're trying to mask these kids up. It's detrimental to their health.
And what, if anything, could convince them otherwise?
I heard you had kind of a rough night last night.
Christopher Green is 53 years old and fighting for his life. Like 90% of the patients in this packed hospital, he's unvaccinated.
I don't expect him to get out of this without being on a ventilator, and if he has to be on a ventilator, I don't expect him to survive.
I immediately asked Christopher, why hadn't he gotten the vaccine?
I'm more of a libertarian, and I don't like being told what I have to do. I'm still not completely 100% sold on the inoculation.
It was eerie to hear Christopher insist on his individual freedoms, even as he struggled to breathe.
Do you think other people should get it? I mean, I think that's everybody's individual right or choice to do what they want to.
I'm more of a libertarian. I don't like being told what to do, so I guess I'll just die. And he did, by the way. Look, that's not being libertarian, okay? That's just being stupid, plain old stupid. I actually know plenty of people who consider themselves to be libertarian who have gotten the vaccine. Hell, you have anarchists that have taken the vaccine. I mean, it's not a measure. Understand that vaccines should not be a measure of your political alignment. It should be a measure of whether or not you value your own life enough to put the trust in science. And that's ultimately what it is. And these people, obviously, they don't trust it. They don't believe it. They have no use for it. You saw earlier, my own natural antibodies. Well, what do you think the COVID-19 vaccine does? It helps you create the antibodies by not giving you a live, strong virus. That's to boost your own immune system. Again, there's so much disinformation where people do not know how this actually works. And of course, those same people are the ones who are suffering the most. As I mentioned, Green died about 9 days after that interview. She said, look, if he goes on a ventilator, he ain't coming back out. And that's true. That's exactly what happened. But hey, he sure showed us. He showed the libs. He showed the commies by dying. Because he believes in freedom. But here's the thing, right? So I don't like that, the freedom. I don't like that argument. Why? Because this is not about you. This is not about you. When you get COVID-19, understand that you're not an island, okay? You go to the hospital, you use up hospital resources. You use up the nurses and doctors' time. So they're not able to see other patients who don't have COVID-19. People that need elective surgery, people that are undergoing things that destroy your immune system, like, for example, cancer treatments. They can't go and get those because you are hogging up the resources while sitting in the hospital. And more importantly, by the way, you are exposing people to COVID-19 who then may also get sick and might end up also in the hospital too. And that is the problem. If it was just you, hey, look, you're a libertarian, you want to sit in your house, you want to smoke 14 packs a day, you want to drink yourself into a coma, that's on you, bro. Go ahead and knock yourself out. Just stay off the public road, keep your secondhand smoke to yourself, and I don't give a goddamn what you do. And that is freedom. That is freedom. But understand that once you endanger the public with your personal choices, that's when your freedom stops. When you infringe on mine, all right? Your freedom stops when you infringe on my freedom to live. Don't fucking tread on me, bro. And that's exactly what the anti-vaxxers are doing. And that's why it pisses me off. They have prevented us from getting back to any sort of semblance of normal by prolonging this crisis, this virus, because they refuse to believe in living in a goddamn society, despite, of course, benefiting from society and refusing to do the bare minimum to give back to that society. Most of these people would never last a minute on their own without a government, without a society. No infrastructure, no power lines, no roads, no gas stations. Oh, you want gas? Go pump your own goddamn oil right out of the ground and then turn into gasoline. Good luck fighting a corporation for that. But oh, wait, you also need you might have to use that gas, like you're getting the gas to fill your car up, right? Well, what if you don't have a car? You're gonna build your own? You're gonna buy it from somebody else? Well, without regulations, how do you know that vehicle is going to be safe or won't explode without regulations and rules? And look, I'm using a pretty broad metaphor, obviously, but think of it this way. Government is the bones of a society. Okay? It's the bones. It's the framework. And understand that if that frame is broken or it's not sturdy, then it collapses in on itself. And when that happens, lots of people get hurt, lots of people die. Okay? They starve or fight each other for resources. There's lawlessness, crime, rapes, murders, no firefighters to stop fires. Remember, back in the past, we didn't have firefighters. You know what happened? Fire starts in one person's house, it burns down the entire neighborhood. Now, it didn't used to be a problem if you had a soul cabin in the woods sitting by yourself, right? Sure. But people, again, congregated in communities, built cities for industry. So it wasn't that agrarian way of life anymore. Now you had cities, now you had places that were really focuses of society, of higher industry, where the jobs were at. And so that's when you needed to have central government. That's why you needed to have some sort of central planning in order to make sure that you had services like fire and police so that your house does not burn down the entire fucking neighborhood if you accidentally leave your cigarette butt and don't put it in the tray. All right? Or you leave your fucking stove on. We need these things. We need these things. You have to have a society. You have to have a government, a framework for things to actually work. Think about it this way. Without the framework of government and society, we wouldn't have a hospital system. And people would be dying, choking alone inside their little shitty cabin. That's why sometimes we have to do the things that we don't want to do. You think I wanted to lock down? You think I want to wear a mask everywhere I go? No, we don't want to do those things, but we have to. We have to because we make the choice to live in a society and to protect each other and our own communities. And we need that society to continue to function. And you can't really function well as a society when a bunch of people are getting sick and dying from a virus. And look, at the beginning of this pandemic, I get it. We didn't have any cures. We didn't have any effective treatments. We didn't have a vaccine. So there were things that we had to do. And I can understand the frustration of not being able to go out and do the things that you love or losing your income because you can't go to work now. And the federal government did drop the ball on that response in helping people be able to stay home. Now there's a vaccine. Now there's no excuse. Now there's no excuse not to get it. Now there's no excuse to be clogging up the hospitals. Absolutely no fucking excuse. None. None. Again, getting vaccinated so you, A, do not spread the virus around like fucking candy. Okay? and B, letting a nice new variant incubate in your body and then releasing it onto the rest of the country is a bare minimum. The bare minimum of what you should do. Okay? Get the vaccine so you don't do any of that. Now, let's get back to the Ozarks. The COVID-19 vaccine rate is so low in Mountain Home, Arkansas. Stockton reports that at a local hospital, Baxter Regional Medical Center, only half of the medical staff has been vaccinated. These are people that work in the medical field and yet refuse to get vaccinated. They're supposed to know better. They're supposed to know better. A nurse working in that hospital, interviewed by Stockton, said, quote, "There are just a lot of people that you cannot convince to get vaccinated. Patients, employees. It's very frustrating." Understand that, and what we've seen earlier, this is why we're not going to be done with this. And it gets even worse when you put it in the context of the world. Because think about it, right? Look, we don't get a lot of foreign policy. We don't get a lot of foreign news. Most Americans don't give a shit, unfortunately, about that as a society. Generally, we don't care about other countries. And, we should. We should actually be striving for a more global socialist movement. But, when you look at the world, the developing world, and you look at the vaccine, right? They don't have the vaccine like we do. They don't have the amount that we do. We have it. You know why? Because we hoard the vaccine. And yet, while we're hoarding the vaccine, there are a big chunk of people in this country that have decided they would rather not take it. They refuse to take it. We are literally swimming in vaccine that people are dying in other countries to get their hands on. And yet these idiots say, nope. No, I'm not going to do it. Freedom. Get freedom. Freedom. I'd rather take horse paste or whatever Alex Jones or insert podcaster name tells me to take on the TV or on the internets. And they do this with no sense of irony at all, calling everyone else sheep while taking dewormer because somebody online told them that, you should take that, and don't realize that they have this weird parasocial relationship with said podcaster or whatever based on clicks and views. No. And look, it sucks pointing this out. It's not profitable. It's not good. I'd rather not talk about it. I'd rather not have to show these videos. I'd rather dunk on Kayleigh McEnany or Dave Rubin for being stupid. Instead, I got to use my platform to push back on nonsense because I feel like I have a responsibility to do that. I got to push back on the conspiracies. Okay? I got to urge people to trust in the science. I know. The wood science bad. Oh. No, look, you got to do the right thing to protect yourself and the community. But unfortunately, as I mentioned, we run into two different problems. You got conspiracy theorists, for one, as I just mentioned, and then you got the ultra freedom people. And there happens to be a lot of overlap between the two. And they are numerous, and they are very irresponsible. They are getting people hurt and killed, like this guy in the video, unfortunately. He died as a result of this. It is frustrating because I am a person that needs, that has empathy, okay? I have empathy, and I want to help people do the right thing by informing them as much as I'm able to, as much as I can. Even so, you get to a point where you run out, where you can no longer mentally afford to give empathy to people who are so stuck in their ways that they are literally killing themselves for the cause, needlessly. And so, unfortunately, I and people like myself, we need to learn to accept that no matter what we do, you just can't save them all. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.